since you have already watched the video on how to make a mummy and read that article, and you took notes on that form I gave you, now we're going to take those notes you wrote and turn them into paragraphs. The first step of that is to separate all those steps into larger categories. Now, I'm going to separate mine into two larger categories: right before the person dies, and then 40 days after the body has dried out. Now, I think that's kind of like a natural separation because the person who's wrapping the mummy would have a natural break of 40 days while they're waiting. So that seems like a good spot to me. So now that I have two separate paragraphs, I'm going to add an introduction and a conclusion, and then I'll have 4 paragraphs altogether. So here we go. The first step is to separate all these steps into larger categories and then use transition words to move between each step. So my basic paragraph is going to sound like this. To make a mummy, first there needs to be a death. As soon as the person dies, there are 3 major steps to take. First, remove all the, and then you put the thing that they removed. Second, cover the body in, and I want you to use the actual language that the video and the article used. And third, and then tell me the third step. I also need to add 1 sentence of the process and then 1 sentence of what I think about it on each step. That makes real good writing. So here's my basic paragraph. But then I need something in the middle because this is just the steps. So where it says, to make a mummy, first there needs to be a death. After that, I'm going to add some commentary. I'm going to add this sentence. Some cultures bury their dead, others mummify their dead. And I'm going to put that sentence right here. Okay, let me keep reading. As soon as the person dies, there are 3 major steps to take. First, remove all the. Second, cover the body in. And third, after each one of those steps, I can add my thoughts. You go ahead and add your thoughts. So after they remove all the what, you can say something like, this was a difficult process. I'm going to write, the other steps come after the body has had a chance to dry out. And I'm going to add that sentence right there. So I tell the information, but I also tell my thoughts on it. So I'm going to leave the screen up just like this so you can pause the video and then write your paragraph from here. So go ahead and click pause and do all these things. All right, so now my paragraph sounds like this. To make a mummy, first there needs to be a death. Some cultures bury their dead, others mummify their dead. As soon as the person dies, there are 3 major steps to take. The other steps come after the body has had a chance to dry out. First, remove. Second, cover. Third, whatever was third. If I wanted to, I could add a graphic to help my readers understand. Lots of nonfiction writers do that. And I can add a graphic that kind of looks like this. So maybe my reader can visualize what's happening. So first, separate the steps into larger categories. Then add my thoughts to each step of the process. But now I need to end the paragraph and transition to the next paragraph. Once I do that, I'm going to add 1 step of process and 1 sentence of my thoughts per step. And then I'm going to add transition words. So my next paragraph is going to look like this. After 40 days, the body is all dried out and the second part of the process begins. So you see how I've transitioned, then I introduced the next step. I'm not going to write the next paragraph for you, but I'm going to give you some kind of sentence starters. So it could sound like this. First, and then you describe the step and add a sentence about it. Second, you describe the step and add a sentence about it. And then follow that same pattern all the way to the end. And you see these green words here? Those are kind of like my transition words. But this one here is also a transition word. I transitioned from the last paragraph. So I have a transition word here. I have a transition word here. And every step has its own transition word. You can say first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. You can say next, afterwards, immediately afterwards, much later, something like that. If you follow this pattern here, you will have 14 sentences in that paragraph. And that's pretty impressive. That's pretty good. I mean, if you're fancy, you can add some textual evidence from the article and quote the article and maybe have 16, 17 sentences in one paragraph, and that sure is fancy. So I'm going to leave the screen up just like this so you can pause the video and then write your paragraph from here. So go ahead and click pause and do all these things. So overall, you've learned how to wrap a mummy. Then you wrote 2 paragraphs on the sequential steps, and you learned how to write something sequentially using the right transition words. But you're not done yet. You need an introduction and you need a conclusion. So in the next video, we're going to throw on an introduction and conclusion. In the meantime, reread what you already wrote and edit it a little bit. Take a day to not look at it, not think about it, and then the next day read it over again, ready to make some changes. So I'm going to see you in the next video, and the next video, I promise you, is the last one.